What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Lines podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Atoya Avril.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with news reporter, host, and author Clarke Finney. But before we get into all of that, Tia, what's good?
Girl, look, it's been nothing much, really. We are finally getting back into a good rhythm with the kids' schedules and all of that. We have our foundation dinner next week that we've been preparing for.
Okay.
So it's interesting. So I don't know. The last dinner that Nate did in Detroit was like that celebrity waiter dinner.
Yes, I remember that.
You remember that dinner? Mm-hmm. So when we came to Seattle, we started doing that dinner too, where the players come and serve. And so we Monday will be our 10th dinner.
That's crazy.
So it's been a big day. Yeah, I know. And I'm like, and it all started, I'm like, because I remember Nate did that dinner and then he had like a little smoke situation and he introduced the guys like it was like a starting lineup. Like,
yes.
You know, we got such and such wide receiver, Calvin Johnson, you know, whatever. I was like, that's so dope. So, you know, we're entering our 10th dinner, which has been crazy.
I can't believe it's been that long to you. Are we that old?
I know. It made me feel so old.
Right?
It made me feel so old.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Because on top of that, it's the 10-year reunion of the Super Bowl team, like the Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of like events and stuff they have planned for us. Today, y'all, we recording on Friday because the weekend will be crazy. But
Yes.
For today, tomorrow, of course, the game, some community events and stuff, and then the dinner on Monday. So just been crazy.
So you're going to have a busy weekend.
Yeah, and you know what? It'll be exciting because I think Cliff said like 40-something of the 53-man roster from the Super Bowl team, 40-something players and their significant others, if they're still together, whatever, will be coming, like participating in the events this weekend. So I'm like, awesome. I'm excited to see everybody have our little reunion situation.
Yeah, that's a good number,
but
too.
What's going on with the Burleson game?
Oh, you know, same old. Sports, school, work, all the same. It's been good though. I can't complain at all. I feel like everybody's now in the swing of things, and I'm just looking forward to 2 weeks. Fast forward 2 weeks when my second son Nehemiah gets his driver's license, so I have a little bit more.
Oh,
freedom,
is he getting it? Okay. Wait, he took the test?
Oh, I didn't tell you that story.
No.
I'll tell you that off air.
Okay. Because I remember we did talk about it on air that you were prepping for it and you were hoping for it. So, okay. So we're going to leave Nene alone.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So question is,
Yes.
is Mia's doing volleyball, right?
Yes, she is in tryouts right now. She'll find out next week whether she made the team. So it should be fun.
Nice. I love watching volleyball. That's one sport I wish I had played in high school.
Yeah,
or high school, middle school, any point.
It is definitely fun. So,
hey, y'all see Nate popped in. Hey, bro.
Look, we have a special guest, surprise special guest, Nate Burleson.
Hey.
But yes, yeah, it's going to be very, very busy between volleyball because Mia plays at least 2 times, sometimes 3 times a week, plus football on the weekend. So here we go. Buckle up.
I know.
Fall is here, y'all.
You know, we got to do a better job. I tell you, like, especially because we know, like, the kids are moving, whatever, but dropping little clips and stuff from their sporting stuff on social and even in YouTube.
Yeah, because I do kind of feel some type of way that I got not one track. I repeat, one track video, but we don't leave that alone, y'all.
Oh, okay. I have a video for you. I got to show you this video of the relay and nationals that they did not make finals, but I got to show you this video.
I would love that.
But yeah, we'll have to do that with them.
I have to live vicariously through your kids because none of mine are doing track. So please send it my way.
I certainly will. But speaking of, because I just mentioned YouTube, y'all can watch us online, right?
Yes.
Follow us on YouTube. It's at Inside Lines Podcast. Where, of course, everything is recorded. Our intro stuff, i.e. right now, as well as the interviews. We drop in little videos and do little teasers and stuff because we are prepping for Super Bowl and all these other events. So check us out on YouTube where you can see all the happenings with Inside Lines Podcast.
Yes. And before we get into our interview with Clarke Finney, I just want to say thank you guys for the amazing feedback from our first two, starting with Crystal McCreary and now with Sarah Taylor, for sharing her story. We've gotten such amazing feedback. So thank you guys so much for chiming in. What did you think about that interview, Tia?
Yeah, honestly, we've been killing it with these interviews. You know, season 5, we started tough with some amazing women. And I told you, I think offline, that Sarah's interview was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Because one, I didn't realize she was the white chair Sarah, which I talked about before. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but just to kind of see how life events, as traumatic as they seem, how they can really plant seeds and birth this amazing experience, i.e. her discovering that she actually likes sports psychology, you know? So that was, I love that interview.
Sports reporting to sports psychology. And, you know, to be able to work with like the best athletes, like PGA athletes, like that little ball, let's be clear, is not hard. Okay. I mean, it's very hard to hit, and it can get to you. So like her job ain't easy dealing with PGA
but just really dealing.
Yeah, with guys, and just really kind of helping them to hone into the best of their abilities and go out there and perform at such a high level. So I love that she chose that path and that she made all that she went through into something so just amazing. And most importantly, her faith in God is just so, you can feel it through the entire interview and the things that she says, and just the type of human being that she is. So shout out to Sarah. Thank you, girl, for coming on and blessing us with your inspiration, which we all felt for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, speaking of inspiration, let's get into our chat with Clarke Finney. On the show today, we have an amazing news reporter, a lifestyle show co-host for a CBS affiliate in San Antonio, and she's also a self-published author who wrote a book titled The Perfect Mix. Please welcome to the show, Clarke Finney. How are you?
I'm so good. I feel amazing this morning. The sun is out and it's not burning hot in San Antonio yet, so we're okay.
I know, that's right. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on. Okay, let's go back. So let's talk about kind of how we've been Instagram followers for a minute. And it was nice to finally connect with you and just see your journey, which has been really cool. But I want to talk about like you growing up, just to give the listeners more of an inside of where you come from. Tell us more about your background.
So I grew up in Orange County, California, was born and raised out there. I always joke with people, though, that I'm from California, but I was born in Odessa, Texas. And if you are a Texan and you hear the word Odessa, Texas, you think, oh my gosh, what? But it truly was a place that I fell in love with and grew into myself. However, growing up in Orange County, I lived in the Irvine, California area. I went to Irvine High School, shout out to IHS. And then I transitioned into college and went to college in LA. And so I attended Biola University. It's a private university out there, but they have an amazing broadcast program. So I really wanted to take advantage of a program where I could get hands-on early in my college career and not have to wait until my upperclassman year to pursue internships and on-campus journalism activities. So
when did you know that you actually wanted to go into broadcasting?
It's really weird because I knew when I was 8 years old. I had this Barbie camera my mom got for me. And do you remember VHS?
Okay, come on, Barbie world.
Of course.
We're still on the Barbie train. Barbie will never go away now. But I had this camera and you had to wind back the VHS tape in order to record, and then it would run out of room. So you had to decide, okay, which clips am I going to keep and which am I going to get rid of? But I would just go around the house and film my mom baking, chase my cat, line up all my dolls and force them to watch my fake newscasts. So it was a good time. And I knew pretty early on, I just loved the art of storytelling. And I always had this, this urge to really want to connect with people on a deeper level. And so that basically became my entire personality. I was the annoying kid in middle school who was a part of the on-campus school broadcast program. And so it just ended up being a huge part of my life. And I knew I wanted to pursue it as a career. And so I was able to go to college to do that.
That's so cool. But let's talk about that, because I think about, journalists, and they do love to share other people's story. How is it on the opposite side? How comfortable do you feel sharing your own story?
So honestly, it took me a very long time to be comfortable, because there's something about even writing things down is very powerful. But when you say things out loud, it just has a different level of impact. And so for me,
so true.
I really feel like there was a point in my life where I was so passionate about covering other people's stories and getting to know the deeper root to who they were, because I was kind of avoiding the deeper roots to who I was. Yeah. And so I got that fulfillment and connection and just the heart of other people with almost, I don't even want to say without connecting to my own, because I did, but there was this way I was able to separate myself a little bit. Yeah. While still being empathetic and connecting fully with the person I was interviewing.
So it's interesting because I think was it last Sunday or maybe it was 2 Sundays ago, the pastor preached about acceptance, but from a form of everybody wake up and move about their day trying to be the best versions of themselves, best significant other, worker, all the things. But what he was when you boil down to it, everybody's just looking for a level of acceptance. So when you think about having to share your own story and what that looks like to be so transparent and people to really see who you are without the veil, it's kind of like a question of, okay, well, if I really reveal who I am, will people like me? Do you think you experience a bit of that, trying to reveal more and more of yourself?
I wish I could say, oh, I'm so confident. I've always been confident. Let's go. But really, I did go through that quite a bit, especially being multiracial. In the TV world, I understand I'm racially ambiguous. And so there are a lot of boxes I check in the industry, just keeping it real, as far as, how I'm able to connect with people visually. They see that. And, businesses will capitalize on that, which I'm proud to be who I am. And so I definitely tap into that. But being multiracial is really hard because I wasn't quite sure how to identify and even what to tell people, because I mixed with a lot of different things and I truly didn't know. And so there was a point in time where, speaking with people, because the question always comes up, oh, what are you? And even though it's not meant as an insult, of course, people are curious. And so I would talk about it, but I wouldn't really get too deep into detail because it was almost not like I was embarrassed, but I felt like I didn't know myself well enough to even share myself with people, because my identity growing up and different experiences I had kind of, I would say, stunted my growth. And so I didn't really feel comfortable in my own hair or my own skin. And so connecting with people on that level of authenticity kind of was a little bit more difficult for me.
Yeah, you talked about that a little bit, which I thought was great, and how you felt, or the comments people made after you explained who you are and how that made you feel. And I don't think that people realize that their comments are hurtful. And, you have to be careful in what you say when you're picking or choosing. Once someone tells you who they are, you decide to pick and choose what parts that you like of that person. And that takes me into your amazing book called The Perfect Mix, because, you go down that journey and you talk about the perfect mix. Explain to our listeners your amazing book that you came out with.
Yes. Thank you so much for asking. So this book was my heart, and like many other people, well, it is my heart, but at one point it was my heart on pages of a journal. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of people out there during the pandemic definitely tapped into the banana bread baking skills and they started their companies and they left the corporate world. But for me, it was writing this book. And so in 2020, I jumped into therapy because working in the news industry, even though I'm lifestyle and going through that time, did take a toll on me. And so I wanted to make sure that I was just mentally, emotionally in a good place and that I was being honest with myself. And so I ended up getting into counseling, which was amazing. But then along the way, you know, when you talk to a counselor and you think, okay, here's this very specific thing I want to discuss and this is an issue that I'm going to overcome. And it's great. You're here. Thank you so much. And then they go, oh, let's tap into this little thing that you mentioned from years ago that you thought you healed from, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you talking about? And then they unpack it and you're like, oh my gosh.
A whole mess, sobbing, having a whole moment. But that's exactly what happened. And I didn't realize that a lot of my adult experiences were still tied to my childhood mindset. And unpacking that allowed me to journal. The biggest tip my therapist gave me was, hey, at the end of every single day, you need to close the chapter, close the book. And you can visually see that happening when you journal out all of your thoughts, whether it's just word vomit or you're actually focusing on a specific thing that happened in your day or something that comes to mind, get it out on paper. And so I started journaling notes to my younger self because that was a huge part of my healing process. And there's a theme of hair throughout those little notes. Right. And I thought, how about I try writing this to my younger self in a way that she can understand. So it's like a child speaking to a child. And then I thought, what if I start making these lines rhyme a little bit and have kind of a flow? And then I decided to make this book. And at first, obviously, it's a manuscript. And so I wrote everything out and I was so happy with it. And I truly was doing it for myself. And then I connected with a local illustrator to see, well, you know, let's see if we bring these pages to life. And met a local illustrator, Gabby Flores. She's a dear friend of mine now. We connected and it was like she saw the inside of my mind, every little detail on every page, even hidden moments that I have throughout the book. She got it. And it was so easy connecting with her. And so I had...
How'd you find her?
So locally. So I met her through another friend of mine who had a children's book out already.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Marcus Peoples. And he encouraged me to connect with her, said that he really enjoyed working with her. And we ended up making a book. And I decided, you know what, I want to share this with people and not just keep it to myself. And so that was the next step.
That was your growth, right? Like you started this for yourself, but through your healing and your journey, you were then able and brave enough to share it with so many other girls that could relate. That's the beauty behind it, right? Taking those brave steps. Just so cool.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about your hair journey, especially being in the news realm, in front of the camera, all the things. Of course, that's what the book's about, but let's talk how you even got there.
So it kind of started from a crazy experience I had at my last station, my former station. But basically there was a day where I was rushing around. I think I was running late. And if you know, as like a morning anchor, you wake up very, very early. I was waking up at like 2 a.m. And I slept through my alarm for the first time ever. And I was rushing around, had to shower. My hair was not, it was greasy. I had it straight. She was looking a little greasy. And so I needed to wash it. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to wear it curly and touch it up with like a wand. And so I did that. And I went into work and got on air. And halfway through, and I didn't find this out until years later, but we received a phone call. And my co-anchor at the time, who is now my best friend, Amanda Mason, she received the phone call at our news desk and someone said, it looks like Clarke stuck her finger in a light socket. Tell her to never wear her hair like that ever again. Yeah. And so that was a
so insensitive
moment, very insensitive. But it was a huge moment in time. I will say I did.
Were you in Cali or Odessa at that time?
I was in Odessa at that time.
In Odessa? Okay.
Yes. And so definitely was impacted by that. She didn't tell me until years later that happened because she didn't want me to be affected by it. But I know that moment was a part of this experience because that same day, my GM pulled me into his office and said, hey, we need to discuss your hair because it's very different from how you usually wear it. And in your demo reel, in your resume, and even just around the office, I've never seen your hair curly. He thought that I had gone in and curled my hair. And he thought that I was naturally straight. Yes. But I will never forget, he laid out these photo prints. They were like full-size photo prints on his desk. And they were of these very well-known female journalists like Barbara Walters, Ginger Z, which is ironic because she has naturally curly hair. And there were a couple other people in there with straight hairdos, and they were all white women. And he said, we want your hair to look like this because look at how professional this looks. You just have a different kind of a style on air when you wear your hair like this. It was a credibility thing. And that was like a whole dagger into my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is so interesting. I think about Nate in this past Super Bowl. He decided to wear braids on air for Super Bowl. And then when he came back from Super Bowl, he wore them on air for CBS. And you would not believe the number of people in their comments and how they felt about him, the way he chose to wear his hair. And
was there a bunch of negative comments?
And it was a mixture of both. But surprisingly, like, I guess it's not surprising, but there's one part of it that's surprising, I would say. There were people that were white that felt that it was unprofessional. But surprisingly, because of the African-American people that have been brainwashed, some of them felt the same way. Oh, you can't wear your hair like that on air. That's only for football or Super Bowl or going out. And it's just so interesting how people put you in a box of how you're supposed to be and look. You know what I mean? Based on what they think is quote unquote professional. And I say that because what would you say, Clarke, to the young girls that are coming, they're out there now trying to figure out, to your point, who they are, fall in love with themselves and their hair. And they want to go down this journey of being on air and, being in front of the world. What would you say to them? Because I know it's been a journey for you. And I think that talking about that and encouraging them and, would be great for them to hear.
Yes, I would say, thankfully, between the Crown Act and a lot of different other initiatives that have hit the broadcast world and the world in general, I think it's more accepted. But I would say to little girls, don't be worried about presenting yourself in a way that makes other people feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yes.
And a lot of these people who are commenting and saying, oh, well, it's not professional, or I don't think it looks good, I prefer this, this, and this, it's because they haven't been exposed to those styles in their own lives. And so when we're going to cookouts and we're, sitting in the chair getting our edges greased by our grandma, we have those experiences of seeing the women in our lives with the braids, with the cornrows, with the puff palms on your head. Your edges all nice and swirled and little curly cues and ringlets. We've been around that. But people who haven't they associate braids with whatever you see on TV, with whatever you see on the news as far as mugshots and things like that are, taken out of context. And I would just say you have to be true to yourself. And there's always going to be someone who doesn't like you, or who's going to comment, or who's going to judge. Allow yourself to feel the pain of what that means to you, but then keep doing you. And eventually it starts to bother you less and less.
That's good. I will say this new generation of kids, when I say they come through with the curly hair, the curly styles, the braids, all the things, especially, of course, the young girls, and I love to see it, But even the boys, because I just knew having 2 boys, I ain't got to worry about hair. They gonna go to the barber and call it a day. When I say my kids be having full blown requests, oh, mom, I want to get twists, but then I want to braid it back like this. And can you schedule me an appointment to do this? And my oldest is like, Ma, I need another bonnet, like one of those things. Because last night I fell asleep and now it's a little fuzzy, and I'm like, I'd be so proud of them. Listen, I'd be so proud of them. They're like the entire basketball team. Curly hair. These boys will go wash their hair. You know how if you have like 4C hair, how it shrinks a lot. And women, we used to be like, oh my God, I don't like it. Not them. They're like, yeah, I just washed it. I'll get it braided and twisted later. But so I've been appreciating that evolution with the youngins.
It's been so amazing to see because people are excited now. It seems like I remember growing up, my hair was definitely something that I dreaded doing. And so even in my book, there's a page where I talk about how I put it back in a frizzy bun because I didn't care anymore. I was so overwhelmed and so stressed out and didn't want to be bothered. And it was such a just damper on my entire personality because I felt like I don't need to express myself because I'm not worth expressing myself. It takes too much time. So I'm just going to throw my hair back and get through my day. But now it seems like kids are excited to take the time.
Yeah.
Do their hair and learn how it works. And there's YouTube and there's stuff that I didn't have growing up. And especially you guys, where you're like, what? The internet and all these different resources were not as easily accessible or they weren't even around.
For us,
there's TikToks of how to do twists and how to use a diva curl brush and all of these different things.
So true.
And so I think it's amazing to see people actually excited to explore all the possibilities of what they can do with their hair instead of dreading not knowing how to handle it. And it's been amazing.
Did you have anyone that you looked up to, when you were going through the process of finding out or figuring out who you are, as well as just journalism in general? Like, how did you, learn and become Clarke Finney?
Oh man, that's a big question. Listen, Atoya, it's too early. Honestly, so as far as people in broadcast, I mean, everyone loves Oprah Winfrey, but her name is Janae Norman. And she was on ABC World News Now for a while. And then I believe now she is doing Good Morning America. I don't know if she fills in on weekends or if she is one of the main anchors, but she always had a sleek look. And then she started to wear her hair natural on air. And I always thought, she was so beautiful. Yeah. And she kind of inspired me. I even sent her a message years ago, letting her know I love your curly hair so much. And I'm on my own journey. And I sent her a little selfie and she was super sweet and liked my comment. Oh, nice. But she definitely inspired me to see what I could do with my hair. But I would have to say for news anchors, I had this mindset of really wanting to know myself, even though it was scary and vulnerable and confusing. And so I didn't really have broadcast, I would say like idols or someone that I really looked up to because I was so focused on becoming the most authentic version of me as possible that I didn't really watch a ton of news because I knew I would get sucked into it. Of course, I stayed informed, but I knew I'd get sucked into that world and try to mirror myself after someone that I looked up to. And I didn't want that.
I agree with that. I think there is a balance there. You have to, because the law of comparison, it's a thief, right? Like you do start to compare yourself and try to become someone that you are not meant to be. And so there is a balance there. So I'm glad that you said it that way. I was trying to figure out who I am on my own while taking in, just the knowledge that you've picked up. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful way of sharing that with the young ones that are trying to do this exact same thing that you're trying to do.
Yeah. I feel like you always hear in the industry too, oh, this is the next Barbara Walters. This is the next blah, blah, blah. And you remind me so much of XYZ. And the whole time I just thought, I want to be the first Clarke Finney, whoever that is.
That part.
I want to be the first me. And no one is ever legendary or in their own realm if they're modeling what they do after somebody else.
You know what? Okay. So and this made me think about this, but I remember going through Detroit where Atoya and I met, and Nate used to do media stuff there, like spots and stuff while he was still playing. And I remember then Atoya like being like, oh, damn, Nate is going to be the next Michael Strahan. And then when he transitioned to Good Morning America or CBS, I said the same thing. And then I had to stop myself. I'm like, I need to stop saying he's going to be the next Michael Strahan, because Nate B is Nate B. Like there is no Nate B. And you know what I mean? But in general, to your point, like people do that because they see the example and they really are trying to pay the compliment. Like, oh, you are dope. And I can see you in this next dope realm as well. But you really diminish and dim who the person is and how the person shows up when you do that.
Yeah. And their own journey. I think, they might be in the same professional job setting, but being yourself, like Nate being Nate, and is what makes him great. Right.
Yeah.
And same with you, Clarke, like, you being yourself is what makes you great. Like there's always going to be things that you have to learn in any profession along the way that are just part of the profession, but showing up as you, that's all you can do. Like I remember my dad told me that a long time ago, always show up as you. And I'll never forget that. So I'm glad that you shared that with these young girls, because y'all know social media is a beast. And, I'm having those conversations with my daughter, comparison and how everything is in front of them to compare, right? And how that is not real life. As kids, we went outside and we played, we were in it. We were in it. We weren't looking at other people trying to compare ourselves. And I guess I say that because I feel like people like you are important to remind people to just be themselves,
That means everything, because social media is such a big part of my life. I love it. I feel like I'm naturally talented at social media too, because I'm just so passionate about it. But you hear it a lot where people, you'll see the supermodel and then all of a sudden there's that post with a little text box and you're like, oh, snap, what happened? There's a whole paragraph and it talks about, social media isn't real and all these little things. And for the longest time, I've been X, Y, and Z. And I thought, why can't it be real? Everything I post is authentic to me. And I'm not trying to get anyone else. I'm not trying to pretend like my marriage is beautiful. My marriage is beautiful, So there's just, I make it a point to be as authentic as possible. And of course you want to take the cute pic every once in a while, but just being you and sharing your story and your life experiences and your trials and your wins. I think that's so important. So I definitely see a little bit of a shift, but I mean, I'm cool with being the pioneer of keeping it real. Like,
real talk.
I'm ready for it.
So let's talk about just your journey along your broadcasting career. Because I do think when we think about social media and stuff, I feel like sometimes some of the younger people, and y'all don't get mad at me, but some of y'all think y'all can skip steps, right? Like y'all think y'all supposed to just show up cute on social media and get the job. And that's not true. But then you can also see it sometimes it happening and their careers are short lived, especially in something like journalism. So let's talk about like, what did your actual career path look like?
Oh, yeah. I believe a firm foundation is everything. When you have your foundation, you build up on it. And for me, it was very important in my journey that I went to college and I got my degree in broadcast journalism and I did internships. That's what got me hands-on experience into newsrooms, into TV studio environments. And so you kind of get a bird's eye view of what actually goes down when it comes to full production. And you have to go through losses and failures in order to learn and grow. And so I actually was talking to my news director. It was a little bit ago, but he said, you're in market 30 now. That's what San Antonio is. And he said, isn't it interesting how you just develop and grow over time, and mistakes that you were allowed to make in your lower market, you can't make in the higher markets, because you should have already gone through the mess ups, the flubs, the errors, and learned from them and grown from them as a journalist. And so I thought, wow, I did that. I had to, you start off in Odessa, somewhere like Odessa, which was...
Where is Odessa?
Listen, It's West Texas. And every time I say West Texas, people go, oh, El Paso. No, Odessa, West Texas, Odessa and Midland. But it's there's like a tumbleweed in a Target. Things have changed now. But when I first
But it had a Target though.
But it had a Target though. I got my toilet paper, I got my shampoo, and I got my perfumes. But I went and there was nothing, not really anything for entertainment. For me, especially because I didn't have kids. So it's very much a family oriented town, an oil field town. And so I felt out of place for a hot second. And then I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I've always wanted. Space to learn who I am and no distractions to get in the way of that. So starting off there, it taught me, what do you do when you have to go to work, but there was a storm and your ceiling is leaking into your kitchen, but you have a live show to do.
Right.
Right. So there are certain life experiences that I needed to go to in order to get to where I am. If I go back then, my book didn't happen back then. It happened in 2020 when years had passed, when the pain of the experience of what I had gone through already happened and I processed that pain. And then I took that next step in saying, okay, well, how am I going to express it? And it's interesting how, your pain can really lead you to your purpose. But it's all about the experience. You have to enjoy the ride while you look ahead to your goal, or you'll miss out on the opportunities and the moments that happen in between. That's
so good. You talk about pain and, the different things that we go through in life. And I feel like we all have those moments mentally where, we struggle in our pain and we don't know what to do. Talk about, a time in your life where there's a moment where you needed help or you didn't know what to do and you struggled in your pain.
So when I was in college, my grandmother passed away. And that was the first time I experienced real grief. And Atoya, and, I know that you have kids and there's going to be moments, if they haven't happened already, where grief rears its head and you want to fix it and you want to, be the mom that they can lean on and be there for advice. And sometimes you can't fix it. You have to let them feel things. I was on the side of that where I was feeling so many different emotions that I hadn't before. And it really impacted my worldview, going to a private college at the time, and then death happens and you think, oh my gosh, this person is no longer here and they physically cannot come back. And so I had a really hard time. I went to counseling, but at the time it was so painful for me that I don't want to say the counseling didn't work, but I wasn't ready to receive what my therapist had to offer.
That's good.
Yeah. And there are certain exercises and different things that he encouraged me to do. And I just wasn't ready to do it. Like one of them was, he encouraged me to write a letter to my grandma, and I just didn't have it in me. And so I never started that prompt. And because of that, I wasn't able to really process the pain. So it took me a long time. There were days when I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't shower. I would eat whatever I found in the fridge and be done. It was a really dark period in my life where I shut a lot of people out. And I remember thinking, if this is what love feels like, I never want to feel this ever again. As crazy as that sounds, I really felt that and I thought that. And so when it came to family, for a while, I cut people off and just avoided any kind of connection because I was afraid of the loss.
Yeah, defense mechanism.
Yeah, so that was a tough period. And I realized, instead of avoiding all the pain and trying to find other outlets or ignoring it altogether, I really needed to face the pain and feel it and allow myself to grieve and to hurt and to tap into that little empty spot where my grandma, used to be. And then I had to create new room. I saw this quote the other day that said, grief never fully goes away. We just build around it and continue on in our lives, but it never goes away. It never shrinks.
Still there. Yeah.
It's always still there because that's a side effect of love. like the loss of that love. And so, it comes with a cost, but it's beautiful to be at a point in my life where I look back on all the memories of my grandma because I felt that pain. And now I can be happy and, have these moments that no one else got to have as her granddaughter.
Yeah.
And I applaud you for that. Mental health it's a struggle for so many people right now. And to your point, you got to the other side, but there's so many people that don't get there. They get stuck, and we just see more and more people leaving this earth way too early. Yeah. And so I'm glad that you in your, teens or early 20s was able to realize, like, I need to go talk to someone. And, I need to get to the other side, and push yourself to do that.
Yeah. And I don't think in general that people do, or as a society, we do a good job of addressing grief. Like, I feel like it's something that people know you experience, but no one really knows how to help you. And so life just kind of goes on. Right. But the reassurance of, like, one, to your point, like, it don't go anywhere. It's still a golf ball missing in your heart, whatever. But just like knowing that it's okay to, like, wake up and not do something one day, and then the next day, like, okay, I'm gonna put one foot forward and try to move through it. Just in general, I think we can do a better job of, like, really equipping ourselves and our youth and stuff for grief, because everybody's gonna experience it, whether it's 100%. Like losing a person, or grief in a dream, or what you thought life was supposed to be, things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna push to the other side. Okay, let's talk about this, because you talked about it a little bit on social media. You are now married. And is it true y'all met while he was responding to a SWAT situation? Because I'm feeling like
wait a minute.
Oh my gosh. Steve, it always ends with a first responder when you're a reporter. I'm kidding. So we met in Odessa, and it was my very first day being there. Okay. And it's a long story, but we have a little bit of time. But basically, there was a first responder appreciation event, and it was in the Chick-fil-A parking lot next to the Target that I had to go into to get some toilet paper. So
Odessa actually is not a small town, because if they got a Chick-fil-A and a Target, like,
if that's it, Tia, that's small.
Listen, no, but if that's it, think about how hard it is to get Chick-fil-A. Seattle just got a Chick-fil-A like maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
That's hilarious.
Really? And a Target? Yeah, Seattle just got a Chick-fil-A. It ain't been that long. Okay, but sorry, go ahead. Yeah, we're at this Chick-fil-A event.
Yes. So I had to go to Target, get some toilet paper. I had driven 15 hours from Southern California. Just got there, was ready to move into the apartment I had never seen before, but signed a lease on. And, I was in the trenches as an MMJ starting out my career. In the trenches. And so I ended up getting all those items from Target and thought, oh, that looks fun. What's going on over there? I was greasy. I had a crop top and some leggings on. I had driven on the highway, surviving off of Red Bull and water. And I thought, you know what? I just got out of college. This could be a great networking opportunity. What if the mayor's here? Because the town is so small, he's probably here. And I really thought, I was like,
you are a true journalist, okay? You are a true journalist.
I was so ready to meet all the people. And so I walked over and I saw this giant armored vehicle, and I thought, whoa. And then I saw a guy standing next to it, and I made eye contact, and I held the eye contact, and I said, I'm coming over there. You better show me what this is. And so I went over there just because I had this curiosity for everything. I still do, but I was very excited because I'd never seen an armored vehicle like that in person. And so all of his other SWAT friends scatter. So he's the one left. I single him out. I'm like, all right, you, sir, tell me what this is. And we just ended up talking. And it was like we had known each other for years. It was the strangest thing. It was like we had this friendship and we were just catching up as old friends, but we had just met. And so 45 minutes go by or something crazy. And he says, well, I would love to take you out sometime. And I said, oh, like on a ride along?
Oh, shit.
She was in Lois Lane mode, okay?
I sure was.
Lois Lane.
Blinders were on. I said, a ride along? And he goes, no, on a date. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is my boyfriend. Yeah. So
Oh,
when I came to Odessa, my boyfriend at the time was with me. Yeah, he rolled with me. He did not move to Texas with me, but we had been together about 2 years. And he goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So what happened was I made a beeline over to this first responder area. Mm-hmm. And then my boyfriend kind of trailed behind. So after we got introduced, I'm looking around at the car. I'm doing all the things. I didn't have a chance to introduce him.
Oh, snap.
Got it. You went straight into it.
And so he just joined us in our conversation, and he didn't say anything. My husband is always like, why didn't he stick his hand out and say, hi, I'm the boyfriend. So he had no idea. And he thought, well, you know, these Cali guys that wear skinny jeans, maybe this is just a guy friend. He wasn't used to all that. The skinny jeans and the whatever they were. The Toms.
I can envision all.
Okay, but wait. So did the boyfriend at the time, did he say anything to you about not introducing him?
No, he didn't. He didn't, because it wasn't one of those situations where he goes, hey, that wasn't cool.
Serious.
We were already so
not even after the fact, after your current asked you on a date, he didn't say anything after the fact?
No, because SIE apologized and said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't know that you were with her. So they had a bro moment. And then we ended up, I said, okay, well, time to go. That was awkward. I knew I would see him again, though, down the line. I had this weird feeling, this isn't the last time we'll see each other. Yeah. So long story short, again, California boyfriend and I didn't end up working out because of my schedule. There were certain things where they were just disconnected. And I knew he wasn't the one I was going to marry. I knew deep down, as much as I wanted to make it happen. So a couple of months later, I'm at an officers' night out event in Odessa. There are 11 different events happening that night. I go to one, and all of a sudden I see someone that looks familiar, and I go, oh my gosh, Romo, is that you? He introduced himself as Romo to me because he didn't think I could
pronounce his name or
say his first name. Yeah. But I was like, oh my God, it's you. And he goes, yeah. So he's in firefighter gear now. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what in the world? You were just in SWAT gear. What's happening? Yeah. So a man of many hats, especially in Odessa. But we hit it off. We hit it off as if we had known each other for all that time. And in that moment, I was single. And
did naturally, he ask you there, or did you tell him?
He asked me for his number, or for my number. And I was like, I just got out of a relationship. And he said, okay, well, I will leave my number with you in case you need anything. I know you're out here by yourself. Your family's not out here. There's good people out here. If you ever need anything, we'll be around. And so a couple weeks later, I know. He was really kept it real. He was. There was intention. So he was, great. You're a nice guy. But he was hoping that someday. And naturally, we just ended up being together. Friendship turned into a relationship. And I thought, you know what? I know that I just got out of this other relationship, but I'm not going to fight this chemistry. Because why? Why would I do that to myself? And then he left his department of 10 years and his family in Odessa to support me in my career and moved to San Antonio, where we are now.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really love that. You are the Lois Lane, and he's a Superman for many reasons. Okay, fireman, gentleman, all the mans of the man, Superman, Lois Lane. You, ladies and gentlemen, listen,
I'll take it. And something else really sweet is, I wore my hair curly. There was a point where I wore it for the first time around him, and he just stared at me and said, "Wow, you're so beautiful. You need to wear your hair curly more often."
That's when you know, okay? In all my naturalness.
Yes. He said, wow, your curls. And he was the first guy to ever say that to me, ever.
That's so reaffirming.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So, because I want to go back to it a little bit, but we were talking about your curly hair journey, and I saw you created a situation called Camp Curl.
Yes, Camp Curl.
So what is it?
It just happened. You have to tell everybody about it.
Yeah, so Camp Curl was inspired by my book because kids are absolutely savage. And so as I started to read my book and go to different schools and things like that, by the end of the story, kids would raise their hand. There's a Q&A portion that I do. They would raise their hand and go, so do you have any hair products? And I would go, no. And they're like, okay, well, what do you use? So they were very like solution oriented.
Yeah. Get to the point.
Right. We love the story, very touching, but what's the action step? And I didn't have an action step yet. And one day I would love to have my own hair care line, but that takes years of development and I want to do it the right way. I'm not just going to slap something on Alibaba.com and, call it a hair product. So listen, but I said, I need to have certain action steps that are tangible that people can take away and apply to their lives. And that's the same mindset I have with journalism, where it's not all doom and gloom and then there's no answers. There has to be some kind of an action step that someone can do to make them feel like they are contributing or they are doing something or they are moving forward. And so with Camp Curl, it is a do-it-yourself with a little help curl boot camp. It's Army themed because my husband is also in the Army.
I see what you did there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do it yourself with a little help. Okay.
My husband is he's Army as well. So he helped me build out the rank structure and everything like that. But it's basically where I walk the kids through different hairstyles using different curl-friendly products. So everything from moisturizing the hair to begin with, and then using a styling gel, edge control, curl activator, all these things that kids may not really be exposed to, but there's a lot of now because times have changed and products are more accessible. So I ended up doing Camp Curl and it sold out. And it was the most beautiful experience. And seeing the faces of these little girls and their eyes light up when they saw their hair transform into something they wanted it to look like was pure
So
magic.
they were actually doing their hair at the event.
Yes.
Like learning with the hands-on experience.
Yes. So I walked them through different hairstyles. I had a model that I would demo on, but we had 2 hairstylists there and then along with the parents. So their parents are getting involved and feeling all these different textures of hair products and learning their purpose and how to use them in certain cases and how you can get creative. And so it was just so much fun. It was a blast.
I have the pictures that you sent. We're going to put them on here so everyone can see it. It was so beautiful. Like I just loved it. And just to see these kids get excited and feel confidence in who they are. It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yeah. And I think this is really good, especially one, you do see a lot, like an increase in mixed race families where sometimes, or at least in the Seattle area, like a lot of the moms, they don't really know how to do the hair, what to do with the kids' hair. So them being able to have this opportunity to go in. But even I think about like foster families. Like I remember one of my old hairstylists in Charlotte, her talking about how there's a lot of parents that come to her because they are fostering a child of a different race and they want the child to leave out and feel comfortable and confident, but they just don't know what to do. So having something like Camp Curl to help navigate the entire process is amazing.
It's crazy because growing up, I truly had to go to someone's grandma in their basement or their garage. And you would see like the little oven with a hot comb in it and it's all smoking and she'd lay the edges flat. You could smell your hair frying.
All of it. All of it.
It's so nostalgic to me. Whenever I fry my hair with a flat iron, I'm like, oh, wow, the memories. They're so there. But I had to go do that. And in order to get my hair done, because there weren't any dry bars or any other businesses that could handle my curls. And I would often get turned away because my hair took a long time to do. So it's either you get charged extra or you get turned away because people don't know what they're doing, or you get charged for a $500 Brazilian blowout. And it doesn't work because they didn't apply it right.
Yeah.
And you go home and you're like, well, I have to straighten out my hair and fix it anyway. So why did I pay for that? And so the fact that I don't have to drive 45 minutes across town to find Black hair products or even multicultural curl products is really, really special, because some products that are meant for like 4C hair and thicker textured hair are too heavy for me. And so I needed that in between, that balance.
Yeah. So you talked about Camp Curl, and then you're coming out with the second one right before school starts. And then you have your book, Perfect Mix. What is next for you? Like, what is on your to-do list next?
Honestly, I'm just taking one day at a time. I'm soaking in the moments from my children's book, Camp Curl, seeing how that develops. And I self-published my book as well. So I have full creative control, and I'm just going to see where it takes me. But I also am working on a book tied to my mental health. Yeah. So not necessarily the perfect mix, but tied to it. So I did have a parent ask me, this book is great for kids. Would you ever consider sharing your story as an adult? And
it's so important. Adults need it too.
Right? They do. But it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, because I was able to express things that I had already gone through as a kid. It was almost like I was adolescent, tapping into that journalist in me and connecting with this little girl and sharing her story, because I had moved on, past a certain point. But then I realized, oh my gosh, it's completely different when you're speaking from your experience as an adult. And
that's so true.
Sharing experiences that you've had in your career field, hurtful experiences that you've had in relationships. And I feel like I'm in a place to where I'll be able to make that happen. So I've already started writing it. And there are a couple other books. I mean, I am a first responder wife, and mental health is such a huge deal for me because of the history in my own family of just certain people not getting the help that they need. And me making the decision in my own life to say, no, it stops here. I'm going to address this pain, and I'm going to address shortcomings in my life and take responsibility for areas where I've fallen short and get the help that I need so that my family can thrive and be healthy.
That's beautiful. Break those generational curses, girl. I believe in that so wholeheartedly. It is something that a lot of people don't realize that's going on in their own lives. And you are like, I see this, it stops here. So I applaud you for that, honestly.
Yeah. You just said something that, and we don't have to go on this like super tangent, but so Atoya and I talk about all the time, like when we used to watch the guys play, while it was like an enjoyable experience for everybody else, we were like holding our breath almost to the last whistle, right? Like, okay, they walked off the field, right? And unfortunately, like for me, my husband left the field 3 times and went straight to the hospital, right? Like and broke his neck to end his career. And you just said like you are the wife of a first responder, right? And they are going into very dangerous situations like you just don't know, right? And like when I think about it, I'm like, oh, you probably holding your breath all the time, like a phone call that could be coming from his boss or the doorbell ring, whatever. Like, what's that experience been like for you?
To be a football wife is way more than just dressing up and going to the sidelines and cheering on your hubby and your team colors. And so I'm happy that you brought up that question, because it very much is like the situation that I found myself in as, someone who was learning how to properly love a first responder. And when I was first dating my husband, I had never experienced being with a first responder. I have a couple in my family, but they're on my dad's side. And so I didn't really know that world. Yeah, it's distant. And going into it, there was actually the situation that came up where I'm talking to him about something and I'm really emotional, and he's just kind of, processing. And I looked at him and I said, why don't you care that I'm crying or that I'm so upset about this? This is such a huge deal. And he goes, I don't know. I just, I care about you, obviously, but I'm just processing and figuring out how to respond. And I was like, oh my God, first responder. Yeah. It's in the name. So his job requires him to assess a situation, on someone's worst day. Emotional.
Yeah.
Right.
Worst
but
day.
The worst day of someone's life,
think about that.
You're either having to save a life, help someone in need, and you have not a lot of time to do that. So you go into it and you execute. Yeah. And there's no time to be emotional or process. You do what needs to be done. And so he's naturally built to be a first responder, I believe, just because of his calm demeanor, and he's not easily bothered by different things. But I had to learn that his emotional response is very different because he is a firefighter, because he did do SWAT. He is in the Army. And learning that sometimes the non-responsiveness and his overly calm demeanor sometimes, because he's very type A. So his personality is very loud and fun. But when he isn't, quote unquote, emotionally connecting to me, it's because he's figuring out how to respond in that situation. And so learning how to better love him, better support him, and better learn his needs has definitely been something that set the foundation of our relationship and led to where we are now, where we understand each other and we know how to move together. And, I can't imagine even being married to a football player. Sometimes they have bad practices, or there's certain decisions that need to be made on the team, or there's team chemistry that has its ups and downs, or even they're trying to hold their spot after coming back from an injury.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many different stressors. And so you could get into arguments or little things here and there. And, they kind of close off because they're processing their things. And you think, why is he being this way? Why is he having an attitude? Why is, whatever. And it's not you that's the problem. It's because they have other stressors coming from other directions. And then even getting rattled on the field, that's huge. And that can absolutely affect someone's mental health. And I'm happy that the NFL seems to be taking that aspect of football a little bit more seriously. But I'm also happy that there's players out there who are reminding these young men that they're more than the sport that they're good at.
And that part.
Right. I'm just so passionate about that, because you see these men getting into business deals and starting their own companies and learning about management and everything like that, because they see that at the end of the day, yes, they have this gift that they can share with others. But one, that's not their gift. They're the gift. So whatever they bring to the table is magic. But also the industry sees people as a product. And the way people see you is, okay, what do I want you to look like? How do I want you to wear your hair? What do I want you to be doing? And you can't worry about all the outside noise, the cheers or the booing. You kind of have to be neutral, because it doesn't matter if people are woo, woo, woo when you're winning. Of course they are, but man, you're not, that changes. And so don't even rely on the cheering, be your own champion and look out for yourself. So I know I kind of went on a tangent there.
Thank you for sharing that. No, that was beautiful. And we don't take lightly what your hubby does and what all the first responders do. And you do have to keep your demeanor and stay cool in situations where most people panic. And especially if you're in TV. If you're doing football and you're a correspondent. So I appreciate you sharing that.
We're going to have to do a whole nother episode breaking down just the relationship with men and women, and like the emotional tolls, and learning that people don't respond the way that you respond. Right. And like, what does that look like for the growth of your relationship? Because even yesterday,
I would love that.
Right. You're
like,
you gotta do it.
Last night.
You gotta do it.
Listen, when he left all the cabinets open and I walked in and I'm like, why do you do this? You're walking around and everyth's open. No, but I would love to continue that conversation,
back.
Because that's such a deeper aspect to my life. And it's amazing, like having all these little different stories, like my children's book. And then also as a wife and as someone who's learning how to properly love a first responder, but also how to take care of myself as well. And then mental health in my family. So there's a lot of different things I'm excited to dive into, because I'm choosing to not hold back and to do things afraid. Sometimes you can be a little stressed and question, is it going to be successful? And I say, just do it anyways. Just do it afraid. Yeah.
Look, we're going to run it back. We're going to run it back. Okay. Let's hop into the 2-minute drill.
We're going to play the game, the 2-minute drill. And you just have to answer this or that question or fill in the blank. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. What is the first thing you do in the morning?
I drink a cup of water, like a full glass.
Wow.
Okay. Impressive. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Oh, that's right.
Favorite NFL team?
Ooh, the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh.
I know.
I'm just playing. Okay.
This is our year.
Every year. Most famous person you've met.
Oh man, Dennis Rodman. Randomly.
That's random.
That is.
Read a book or TV binge?
I would have to say it depends, but probably a TV binge.
What has been your favorite age so far?
30. I just turned 30 and I feel so much more centered in who I am. Mm-hmm.
It's different.
So true. What's something you would tell young Clarke?
Every time this question gets me, oh my gosh, I would tell her, stop trying to fit into the box other people want to put you in, because you're bigger than the box. You are bigger than the box. Okay. So break the box. Make a shirt. You got to break it.
Break the box.
Mm-hmm. One language you would like to learn? French.
Oui.
Okay.
The number one.
She said, we have Victor Wembanyama on the Spurs now, and all of a sudden we're all like, oh, palm trees.
What is your number? That is hilarious. What's your number one bucket list travel destination?
Oh, wow. I haven't really thought about that. I would maybe say Fiji.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love that.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, you are amazing. And if people want to get a hold of you, because you've dropped some gems today, okay? If they want to get a hold of you, where do they find you?
So on Instagram is the best way. It's at Clarke Finney. So just my first and last name. And then at The Perfect Mix Book on Instagram and at Camp Curl.
Come on, somebody.
I'll
be sure to put links to all of them in the show notes.
Yes, that's 3 ways to holler at Clarke, y'all. Clarke, thank you for joining us. You were amazing. And we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much, ladies. It was such an honor connecting with you and meeting you.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. That is our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow us at Inside Lines Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
You can also listen online and share your favorite episodes at our website, which is insidelinespodcast.com. And if y'all don't know by now, we have a YouTube channel. That's right. Follow us at Inside Lines Podcast and make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you get all the notifications when the new episode comes out.
Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening.